The message came at midnight, Earth time. Commander Park was sitting alone in her quarters aboard the diplomatic ship Horizon's Edge when her screen lit up with the seal of the Galactic Confederation. She put down her cup of tea and read the message slowly. Then she read it again. The High Council of the Galactic Confederation required humanity's representative to appear on Prime within 10 standard days. The matter concerned unauthorized military expansion, violation of territorial boundaries, and failure to comply with the terms of minor species membership. Leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years. She had known it would come eventually. The Confederation did not like surprises, and humanity had been full of surprises lately. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were living their lives on Earth, on Mars, on the colony worlds that humanity had built in just 30 years. They were miners and farmers and scientists and soldiers. They were mothers and fathers and children who had grown up knowing that they were not alone in the universe. And somewhere out there, the Confederation was watching them, counting their ships, measuring their growth, worrying. Good thought, let them worry. A knock came at her door. She called for the person to enter, and Lieutenant stepped inside. He was a tall young man with serious eyes and a quick mind. Had chosen him as her aide because he was not afraid to speak his thoughts, even when those thoughts were uncomfortable. You received the summons, said. It was not a question. I did. What do you want to do? Turned to face him. What do you think they want? Considered the question. They want to remind us of our place. They have been the dominant species in the Confederation for 10,000 years. They built the system. They control the trade routes, the technology sharing, the military limitations. Every species that joins the Confederation accepts their rules. And we haven't been following the rules. No, we have been doing the opposite. Paused. In the past 10 years, humanity has expanded into 6 new star systems. We have built 17 new military stations. We have developed weapons that exceed the limits placed on minor species. We have refused to share our research with the Confederation Science Council. Smiled slightly. You sound like you are reading from their complaint. I probably am. The point is, we have been breaking their rules since the day we joined, and now they want to do something about it. What do you think they will do? Was quiet for a moment. Sanctions, probably. Trade restrictions. They might demand that we dismantle some of our military installations. They might try to limit our access to the jump corridors. And if we refuse, then they will have to decide how far they are willing to go to enforce their rules. Nodded slowly. This was the heart of the matter. The Confederation had never faced a species like humanity before. They had never dealt with a people who did not accept the natural order of things. They had never encountered a civilization that had spent its entire existence fighting to survive. She thought about Earth's history, the ice ages that had nearly wiped out their ancestors, the plagues that had killed millions, the wars that had every generation. Humanity had not evolved in a kind universe. They had evolved in a universe that wanted them dead, and they had survived anyway. The Confederation species had not had that experience. Most of them had developed on peaceful worlds with stable climates and abundant resources. They had reached the stars slowly, carefully, over millions of years. They had joined together not out of desperation but out of convenience. The Confederation was not a family. It was a business arrangement. And now humanity was threatening to disrupt that arrangement. Send a response, said finally. Tell them we will attend the council meeting. Tell them that the United Earth Coalition takes their concerns seriously and looks forward to a productive discussion. Raised an eyebrow. That sounds very diplomatic. It is supposed to. I want them to think we are nervous. I want them to believe we understand how much trouble we are in. She paused. I want them to underestimate us. And what are we actually going to do? Walked to her desk and opened a drawer. Inside was a small data crystal, no larger than her thumb. She had been carrying it for 3 years, waiting for the right moment. We are going to show them who we really are. The next 10 days passed quickly. The horizon's edge made 3 jumps through Confederation space, passing through systems that humanity had only learned about 30 years ago. Spent most of that time preparing. She reviewed intelligence reports on every member of the High Council. She studied the histories of species that had tried to challenge the Confederation before. She memorized the names and faces of every representative who would be present at the meeting. Worked beside her, helping to organize information and prepare arguments. But as they got closer to Prime, he became more and more quiet. "Something is bothering you," said one evening. They were sitting in the ship's small conference room, surrounded by holographic displays showing maps and data. Looked up from his screen. "I am thinking about what happens after the meeting," he said. "What do you mean?" "I mean that we are about to challenge the most powerful organization in the galaxy. We are going to walk into their council chamber and tell them that we do not accept their rules. We are going to demand things that no minor species has ever demanded before." He paused. "What happens if they say no?" Considered the question. "Then we will have to decide what we are willing to do to get what we want. Are we willing to go to war?" The question hung in the air between them. Did not answer immediately. She thought about the billions of humans who were depending on her. She thought about the future that humanity could have if they were free from the Confederation's restrictions. She thought about the future they would have if they remained under the Confederation's control forever. "I hope it does not come to that," she said finally. "But if it does, then yes, we are willing to fight." Nodded slowly. He did not look surprised by her answer. "The Confederation has never lost a war," he said. "The Confederation has never fought humanity." The horizon's edge dropped out of jump space on the morning of the 10th day. Prime filled a world of violet oceans and crystalline cities that had stood for 10,000 years. It was beautiful in a cold, ancient way, a monument to the power and permanence of the species that had built it. Stood on the bridge, watching as their ship approached the orbital stations. Confederation vessels surrounded them on all sides. Cruisers and battleships and carriers, more military power than humanity had ever possessed. It was meant to be intimidating. It was meant to remind them of their place. Felt no fear. She felt only a cold, steady determination. "Commander," the pilot said, "we are being hailed. They are requesting our identification and the purpose of our visit." "Tell them who we are," said. "Tell them we are here to meet with the High Council." She turned away from and walked toward the exit. "And tell them," she added, "that humanity has arrived." The shuttle descended through violet clouds and landed on a platform made of white stone. Stepped out first, followed by 4 members of her security team. The air smelled strange, like flowers and metal mixed together. The sky above them was a deep purple, and 3 moons hung low on the horizon. A delegation was waiting for them. They were tall beings, nearly 3 meters in height, with silver skin that seemed to glow faintly in the alien sunlight. Their eyes were large and multifaceted, like the eyes of insects, but there was nothing insect-like about the intelligence that burned behind them. The leader of the delegation stepped forward. He wore robes of deep blue, and his voice was like music when he spoke. "Commander Park, I am Counselor. I have been assigned to escort you to the council chamber." Nodded politely. "Thank you, Counselor. We are honored to be here." It was a lie, of course. She felt no honor. She felt only the weight of what she was about to do. They walked through the streets of the capital city. The buildings around them were impossibly old, made of crystal and metal that had stood for thousands of years. Citizens stopped to watch them pass. Some looked curious. Others looked hostile. A few looked afraid. "Your species has caused quite a stir," Counselor said as they walked. The Council has not summoned a minor species representative in over 200 years. We are flattered. You should not be. The last species that was summoned refused to comply with Council demands. They no longer exist. Did not react to the threat. She simply continued walking, her face calm and her steps steady. The Council chamber was located at the heart of the city, in a building that looked like it had grown from the ground rather than been built. Its walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Inside, a vast amphitheater stretched upward, filled with seats for representatives from all 47 member species. Most of those seats were full. Had studied images of the Council chamber, but seeing it in person was different. The scale of it was overwhelming. The weight of history pressed down on her from every direction. This was where the fate of civilizations had been decided for 10,000 years. And today, humanity would add its voice to that history. The human delegation was led to a small platform at the center of the chamber floor. Above them, arranged in rising tiers, sat the representatives of the Confederation. Recognized many of them from her studies. They with their hard shells and clicking mandibles, the aquatic floating in tanks of blue water, the silicon-based, their bodies made of living rock and crystal. And at the very top, on a raised dais that overlooked the entire chamber, sat the High Council. There were 7 of them, one for each of the Confederation's founding species, but everyone knew that only one opinion truly mattered. High Arbiter, the leader of the, sat at the center of the dais. He was ancient, even by standards. His silver skin had darkened with age, and his eyes seemed to hold the weight of centuries. When he spoke, his voice filled the chamber like thunder. Humanity, you have been summoned to answer for your violations of Confederation law. Stood in the center of the platform, her hands clasped behind her back. She did not bow. She did not show any sign of submission. We are here, she said simply. His eyes narrowed slightly. You are accused of expanding beyond your designated boundaries, of constructing military installations in neutral space, of developing weapons that exceed the technological limitations placed upon minor species, of refusing to share your research with the Confederation Science Council. He paused, letting the weight of the accusations settle over the chamber. How do you respond to these charges? Took a breath. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Everything depended on what she said next. We do not deny them, she said. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several representatives leaned forward in their seats, even seemed surprised. You admit to violating Confederation law. I admit that we have done the things you describe. I do not admit that we have violated any law that we agreed to follow. You agreed to the terms of membership when you joined the Confederation. No, his voice was calm but firm. We were told the terms. We were informed of the restrictions. We were never asked if we accepted them. We were simply expected to obey. The murmurs grew louder. The representative clicked its mandibles rapidly, a sign of agitation. The representative rose slightly in her tank. Raised a hand for silence. Every species that joins the Confederation accepts its rules. This is how galactic civilization has functioned for 12,000 years. And perhaps, said, that needs to change. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouted and argued. Some called for immediate sanctions against humanity. Others demanded that be removed from the chamber. The noise was deafening. Did not shout. He simply waited, his ancient eyes fixed on with an expression she could not read. When the chamber finally fell quiet, he spoke again. You are suggesting that humanity, a species that has been part of this confederation for only 30 years, knows better than civilizations that have existed for millions of years. I am suggesting that age does not equal wisdom. I am suggesting that the way things have always been done is not necessarily the way things should be done. Paused. And I am suggesting that humanity will not accept a system that was designed to keep us weak. The system was designed to maintain peace. The system was designed to maintain your power. Looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as she could. They built this confederation. They wrote the rules. They control the trade routes and the technology sharing and the military limitations. Every other species exists within the boundaries they have drawn. She turned back to, "We have studied your history, High Arbiter. We know how this system works. New species join and are told they are equals, but they are not equals. They are given limited rights, limited access, limited growth. They are kept dependent on Confederation resources, unable to develop independently. And by the time they realize what has happened, they are too weak to do anything about it." The chamber was silent now. Every eye was on. "Humanity will not follow that path," she said. "We will not spend centuries slowly earning rights that should have been ours from the beginning. We will not accept limitations on our growth. We will not be managed." Leaned forward. "And what will you do instead?" Smiled. It was not a warm smile. "We will show you exactly who you are dealing with." She reached into her uniform and pulled out the data crystal she had been carrying for 3 years. She walked to a display pedestal at the edge of the platform and placed the crystal on it. The chamber's holographic systems activated, and suddenly the air was filled with images. Ships, weapons, military installations, maps showing humanity's expansion across the stars, technical specifications for weapons that the Confederation had never seen. And something else. Detailed analysis of every major species in the Confederation, their military capabilities, their strategic weaknesses, their vulnerabilities. "This is what humanity has been doing," said, "while you were treating us like children." The silence that followed was absolute. The holographic images hung in the air like ghosts, ships and weapons and maps glowing softly in the dim light of the council chamber. Every representative stared at them in silence. Some looked confused, some looked angry, and some, noticed with satisfaction, looked afraid. High Arbiter was the first to speak. "You dare to threaten us?" His voice was quiet, but there was danger in it. The kind of danger that came from 12,000 years of unchallenged power. "I am not threatening you," replied. "I am showing you the truth. For 30 years you have looked at humanity and seen a young species, primitive, inexperienced, barely capable of leaving our own solar system." She gestured at the holographic displays. "You were wrong." She began to walk around the platform, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "In the time since first contact, we have studied every species in this confederation. We have learned your histories. We have analyzed your technologies. We have mapped your trade routes and your military positions and your political alliances. We have done what humanity has always done when faced with a challenge." She stopped and turned to face the council. "We prepared." The representative spoke, its voice a series of clicks and hisses translated by the chamber's systems. "This is madness. You are one species. We are 47. If you challenge the Confederation, you will be destroyed." "Will we?" Looked at the directly. "Your species relies on a single world for 70% of your food production. Your military is powerful, but your supply lines are fragile. If that world were to become unavailable, your entire civilization would face famine within 6 months." The representative fell silent. Its mandibles clicked nervously. Turned to the, "Your people cannot survive outside of water for more than a few hours. Your ships are designed for aquatic crew, which makes them vulnerable to any weapon that can breach their hull integrity. A single well-placed attack could kill thousands before they could reach escape pods." The representative sank lower in her tank, her large eyes blinking rapidly. "I could continue," said. "I could go through every species here and explain exactly how humanity could hurt them if we chose to. But that is not why I am showing you this." She walked back to the center of the platform. I am showing you this because I want you to understand something. Humanity is not a threat to the Confederation. We do not want to destroy you. We do not want war." She paused. "But we will not be controlled, and if you try to force us into submission, we will fight back, and we will win." His voice was cold. "You speak with great confidence for a species that has never faced the combined might of the Confederation. And you speak with great confidence for species that have never faced anything like us." Took a breath. This was the moment. Everything she had planned, everything she had prepared for, came down to what she said next. "Let me tell you about humanity," she said. "Let me tell you what we really are." She began to pace again, her movements slow and deliberate. "Every species in this chamber evolved on a world that was kind to them. Your climates were stable. Your resources were abundant. You had millions of years to develop at your own pace, to reach the stars when you were ready." She stopped. Humanity did not have that luxury. Her voice dropped, becoming soft and serious. "Our world tried to kill us, again and again and again. Ice ages that covered our planet in frozen death, plagues that killed millions in months, predators that hunted us in the darkness. We were not the strongest species on our world. We were not the fastest. We were not the most dangerous." She looked around the chamber. "But we survived. When the ice came, we learned to make fire. When the plagues came, we learned medicine. When the predators came, we learned to fight. Every challenge that should have destroyed us made us stronger instead." She walked toward the council dais. "You think 30 years is a short time. For humanity, 30 years is nothing. We have been fighting for survival for 300,000 years. Every generation of humans has had to struggle against something. Nature, disease, each other. We have been at war with the universe since the day we came into existence." She stopped at the foot of the dais and looked up at. "You have spent 12,000 years building a system of control, a system that keeps species weak and dependent. A system that prevents conflict by preventing anyone from becoming strong enough to fight." Her voice hardened. "That system does not work on us, because humanity does not become weak when we are threatened. We become dangerous." Stared down at her. His multifaceted eyes reflected the holographic images that still hung in the air around them. "What do you want?" he asked finally. Stepped forward and placed a second data crystal on the display pedestal. New images appeared in the air. Documents, treaties, proposals. "These are our terms," said. "Full membership rights, equal to any founding species. Complete representation in all council decisions. Removal of all restrictions on human expansion and technology development. And a complete restructuring of the Confederation's governing system." She paused. "No more tiered membership, no more limitations on new species, no more control." The chamber erupted again. Representatives shouted and argued. Some called the demands impossible, others called them an act of war. The noise built and built until it seemed like the crystal walls themselves might shatter. Through it all remained silent. He watched with those ancient, unreadable eyes. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke. "You are asking us to destroy everything we have built. I am asking you to build something better. And if we refuse, did not look away, then humanity will leave the Confederation. We will build our own alliances. We will continue to expand and grow and develop. And eventually, we will become powerful enough that the Confederation will have no choice but to deal with us as equals." She took a step back. "You can accept us now as partners and help shape the future of the galaxy together, or you can try to stop us and fail. Those are your only options." The silence stretched on and on. Representatives looked at each other, then at the council, then at the small human woman who stood alone at the center of the chamber. And slowly, in eyes that had seen 10,000 years of galactic history, something began to change. It was fear. Real, genuine fear. For the first time in longer than anyone could remember, the masters of the galaxy were afraid. The fear in the chamber was almost a living thing, could feel it pressing against her from all directions. It came from the representatives in their seats, from the guards along the walls, from the ancient stones themselves. 10,000 years of confidence, of certainty, of absolute control, and now it was cracking. Good. High Arbiter rose from his seat. He was old, but his body was still strong, and when he stood, he towered over everything in the chamber. His silver skin seemed to glow with barely controlled fury. "You speak of war as if it is something you understand," he said. His voice was no longer calm. There was anger in it now. "You speak of conflict as if your species invented it, but you know nothing. Nothing." He descended from the dais, his robes flowing behind him like water. The other council members watched in silence. No one had ever seen leave his seat during a council session. "The Confederation has faced threats you cannot imagine," he continued, approaching. "We have fought wars that lasted centuries. We have faced extinction-level events. We have watched species rise and fall like waves on a shore. And through all of it, we have survived." He stopped less than a meter from her. Up close, she could see the age in his eyes, the weight of countless decisions, the memories of civilizations that no longer existed. "Do you truly believe," he said softly, "that humanity can challenge that history?" Did not step back. She did not show any sign of fear. "I believe," she said, "that history is written by those who survive, and humanity has spent 300,000 years learning how to survive. You are children playing with fire. We are the species that invented fire. We are the species that learned to control it. And we are the species that burned down forests and built cities from the ashes." She paused. "You should not underestimate what we are capable of." Stared at her for a long moment. Something shifted in his expression. It was not anger anymore. It was something else. Something that looked almost like respect. "You really believe you can win," he said, "against all of us?" "I believe that we do not have to win against all of you. I believe that many species in this confederation have been waiting for someone to challenge the old order. I believe that, when we leave this chamber, we will not be alone." She looked past, at the representatives watching from their seats. "I have studied your histories. I know which species have been unhappy with control. I know which ones have been resources. I know which ones have been kept weak on purpose." Her voice carried across the chamber. "Humanity is offering them a different path, a confederation built on equality instead of hierarchy, on cooperation instead of control." Murmurs rippled through the chamber again. Some representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others leaned forward with interest. His eyes narrowed. "You would divide us. You divided yourselves a long time ago. We are simply offering an alternative." The High Arbiter was silent for a long moment. Then he turned and walked back toward the dais. When he reached his seat, he did not sit down. He simply stood there looking out over the chamber. "The Council will deliberate," he said finally. "Humanity will receive our response within 30 standard days." "That is not acceptable." Every eye in the chamber turned too. "I beg your pardon." His voice was dangerous. 30 days is too long. It gives you time to plan, time to coordinate, time to try to isolate us before we can build alliances." Shook her head. "You will give us your response now, today, in this chamber. You do not make demands of the High Council." "I just did." The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. The entire chamber seemed frozen in time. Then slowly smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "Very well," he said. "You want our response now. Here it is. The Confederation rejects your demands, all of them. Humanity will return to its designated boundaries. You will dismantle your unauthorized military installations. You will share your technology with the Science Council. And you will accept the restrictions placed upon minor species." He paused. If you refuse, you will face the full weight of Confederation authority, sanctions, trade restrictions, military action if necessary. His voice hardened. You will be made an example of, a warning to any other species that thinks they can challenge the established order. Listen to every word. Her expression did not change. When finished, she nodded slowly. I understand, she said. She turned to her delegation, and the security team were watching her, waiting for her signal. She gave them a small nod. Then she turned back to face the council. You have made your choice, she said. Now let me make something clear. Humanity came here in good faith. We offered you a partnership. We offered you a chance to build something better together. You refused. She began walking toward the chamber exit. From this moment forward, humanity will no longer consider itself bound by Confederation law. We will continue our expansion. We will continue our military development. We will build alliances with any species that shares our vision. She stopped at the door and turned to face the chamber one last time. And when you finally realize that you cannot stop us, when you understand that the old order is dying whether you want it to or not, we will be waiting. We will still be willing to talk, but the terms will be different. Her voice was calm, certain, absolute. This meeting is over. She walked through the door without looking back. Her delegation followed. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the silent chamber. No one tried to stop them. Fell into step beside as they walked through the crystal corridors of the council building. His face was pale, but his voice was steady. That was either the bravest thing I have ever seen, he said, or the most foolish. Perhaps both. What happens now? Did not slow her pace. Now we return to the ship, we leave Prime, and we begin the next phase. Which is? We show them that everything I said was true. They emerged from the building into the violet light of the alien sun. The shuttle was waiting for them on the landing platform. In the distance, could see citizens gathering, watching the human delegation with confusion and fear. She paused at the shuttle door and looked back at the city, at the crystal spires that had stood for 10,000 years, at the heart of an empire that had never been challenged. They are going to come after us, said quietly. Yes. They are going to try to make an example of us. Yes. Are we ready? Turned to face him. There was something in her eyes that he had never seen before, a fire, a certainty that went beyond confidence. We have been ready, she said, since the first human looked up at the stars and decided to reach them. She stepped into the shuttle. Now let us show the galaxy what that means. The horizon's edge broke through the atmosphere of Prime and climbed toward the stars. Below them, the violet world grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light in the darkness. Stood on the observation deck, watching the planet disappear. Her body was tired. The tension of the council meeting had drained her more than she had expected, but her mind was sharp, already moving ahead to what came next. Entered the deck and stood beside her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. They let us leave, he said finally. I was not sure they would. They were too surprised to stop us. They have never had anyone walk out of a council meeting before. They did not know how to react. That will not last. Once they recover, they will come after us. I know, turned away from the viewport. How long until we reach the jump point? 4 hours. Good, that gives us time to prepare the transmission. She walked to a console and began entering commands. A recording system activated, projecting a small holographic image of her own face. What are you doing? Asked. Sending a message to everyone. She looked at him. The Confederation controls most of the communication networks in the galaxy, but they cannot control all of them. There are independent relays, private networks, channels that smaller species use to talk without the listening. You want to broadcast what happened in the council chamber. I want to broadcast everything, the demands we made, the response we received, the fact that we walked out." She paused. "I want every species in the galaxy to know that someone finally stood up to the Confederation. Considered this, some will support us. Many will, the ones who have been kept weak, the ones who have been resources, the ones who have been watching the control everything for thousands of years and wishing they could do something about it." His voice hardened. "We are giving them hope, and hope is the most dangerous weapon in the universe." She activated the recording system and began to speak. She told the story of what had happened on Prime. She explained humanity's demands and the Council's rejection. She described walking out of the chamber, turning her back on 12,000 years of galactic order. But she did not stop there. She talked about humanity's history, about the ice ages and the plagues and the wars, about how every generation had faced extinction and refused to accept it, about how humans had clawed their way to the stars not because the universe wanted them to, but because they refused to stay on the ground. She talked about what humanity represented, not just a new species but a new way of thinking, a belief that the old order was not permanent, a conviction that things could change. And she made an offer. "Any species that shares our vision is welcome to join us," she said into the recorder. "Any civilization that wants something better than what the Confederation offers can stand with humanity. We are not asking you to go to war. We are asking you to imagine a different future." She paused. "The Confederation will tell you that we are dangerous, that we are a threat to galactic peace, that we must be stopped." Her eyes were hard. "Ask yourselves this: why are they afraid of us? Why does the most powerful organization in the galaxy feel threatened by a species that has only been in space for 30 years? She leaned forward. "They are afraid because they know the truth. They know that their system only works if everyone accepts it. They know that if one species refuses to play by their rules, others will follow. They know that the empire they have built is more fragile than it looks." She straightened. "Humanity is proof that change is possible. We are proof that the old order can be challenged, and we are just the beginning." The recording ended, sent it out on every channel she could access. Then she sat down and waited. The response came faster than she had expected. Within hours, messages began arriving from species across the galaxy. Some were hostile, demanding that humanity surrender before it was too late. Some were cautious, asking for more information, wanting to understand what humanity was really offering. But many were something else entirely. Hope. Small species that had been ignored for centuries. Civilizations that had been technology and resources. Worlds that had watched the control everything and wondered if things would ever change. They were reaching out, asking questions, expressing support. Brought report after report to, as the messages poured in. His expression grew more and more amazed with each one. "I did not expect this," he admitted. "I thought we would have years of work ahead of us, building alliances slowly, convincing species one by one." "The Confederation has been building pressure for thousands of years," replied. "They just needed someone to release it." The horizon's edge reached the jump point and prepared to leave Confederation space. Before they jumped, received one final message. It was from... The High Arbiter's face appeared on her screen, ancient and terrible. His voice was cold. "You have made a grave mistake, Commander Park. The Confederation has survived for 12,000 years. We have faced every threat imaginable. We will survive this as well." Listened in silence. "I want you to understand something," continued. "What happens next is not personal. It is simply the way things must be. Humanity will be made an example of. Your expansion will be stopped. Your military will be destroyed. Your species will learn its place." He paused. "You had a chance to be part of something greater. You chose to throw it away. Remember that when the end comes." The message ended. stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she smiled. Watched her with confusion. What is there to smile about? He just threatened to destroy us. Yes, stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, the jump corridor was forming, a tunnel of light that would carry them back to human space. He threatened us. He warned us. He told us exactly what he plans to do. She turned to face. And he did it because he is afraid. Because everything I said in that chamber was true. Because for the first time in 12,000 years, the Confederation does not know what is going to happen next. She looked out at the stars. They built their empire on control, on certainty, on the belief that they understood how the galaxy worked, and now they have met a species that does not fit their models, a species that does not follow their rules, a species that would rather fight than submit. The ship shuddered as it entered the jump corridor. The stars stretched into lines of light. They are afraid because they should be, said softly, not because we are going to destroy them, but because we are going to change everything, and they cannot stop it. Stood beside her, watching the light of the corridor stream past them. What do we do now? He asked. Now we go home, we tell our people what happened, we prepare for what is coming. His voice was calm, certain, and we show the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises. The horizon's edge emerged from the jump corridor in human space. Around them, the lights of Earth's orbital stations glittered like diamonds against the darkness. Home looked at those lights and thought about everything that had brought humanity to this moment. 300,000 years of survival, 30 years of reaching for the stars, one meeting that changed everything. The galaxy was afraid of humanity. And humanity was just getting started.